there is disunion, for probably want of a better word, amongst many in the public service towards this government. And the latest today, Simeon Brown, Simeon, he was speaking at a conference or at an event or at a meeting, and the nurses wanted their voices heard, and they managed to do it in a pretty successful yet silent way.
Nurses turned their backs on the Health Minister at their annual union conference, saying today's protest mirrors the way the government's treated them. The action coming amid an ongoing bargaining stalemate after nurses walked off the job 2 weeks ago over better pay and safe staffing levels. Sophie Trigger has more.
After these scenes earlier this month, today's protest struck a quieter tone.
It's really interesting because this happened at Waitangi as well. A whole bunch of wahine got up and turned their back on David Seymour when he was speaking. It's really powerful. And it is really powerful when women do it. You know, like there's something about it which is like, I mean, like let's not get like evolutionary or anything, but you turn your back on something, you're more vulnerable to them. So it's got to take a bit of, like in the days of hunting and collecting. So it's really powerful. Obviously there's a bloke in there as well, but mostly nurses, mostly women. I just find it so powerful, a position to take. It is innately one of vulnerability, but actually because of that, it makes it even stronger. Any thoughts, Bree?
Yes, exactly. I think it's a beautiful show of solidarity from the Nurses Association there because, like you said, it is mainly women, but it is men impacted too. Men in feminized fields, they are impacted. My granddad was a nurse and he was never paid what he was worth, his entire career. So this does impact men too, and it's really awesome to see them standing with those wahine. I love to see that. It's very powerful.
All right, let's go.
I'm going to do exactly what you did to us, and you didn't listen. You turned your back on us. So I stood up and I walked to the back of the room, and I didn't expect everyone else to follow.
So that's amazing. We talked about that earlier. Just so that wasn't a planned strike. That wasn't a planned action. One person decided to do it, and obviously others, there was a spirit or there was a kinness there was a wairua, and they went, this feels right. And that makes it even more powerful. It's a spontaneous act by numerous people to go, you turn your backs on us, we'll turn our backs on you. Too much.
Prompted by these comments from the minister.
Let me be clear, you have the right to strike, but it's also true that thousands of patients are affected. One mother whose baby was born prematurely was told that skin-to-skin contact was critical for the baby's well-being, yet she was unable to hold her baby for 2 separate 24-hour periods because nurses were on strike.
I just thought, how dare you come here and talk about guilt that we went striking? I thought, I'm not going to listen to this because the reality is that on a day-to-day basis in our work, you see that every day.
The point that's about to come out is, are patients going to lose out more for nurses being out for a day or being, and the stat's about to come up, I don't mean to kind of keep our powder dry, but or being 500 nurses short per shift. The stats show there's more than 500 nurses short per shift. We need about 2,300 nurses. So are patients going to be in that much more danger or put out for one day? Or if this doesn't get sorted out for the next several years, when wards are down by between 30 and 50% of nurses? And that's not what the government's saying. The nurses are trying to do this, same for the doctors, to make the system safer for themselves and for patients. Not necessarily in that order. It might be patients first, but for both groups. And the government's saying if you go on strike, it's going to be not as safe for your patients. And they're like, well, we know, bitch. We knew that yesterday, and we'll know that tomorrow. That's what we're trying to do. Yeah. Do you want to add anything in yet, Bree, or should we keep going?
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly the point of a strike. The point of a strike is that it impacts the day-to-day function of whatever service you're providing. It's meant to shut things down. That's the point, so that you see how valuable it is. I think he's just pointing out the impact of him not listening to them. Yeah. That's why they're not there today, because that you're not listening to them.
Yep. All right, keep going.
Infometrics report released today found between 2022 and 2024, 38% of nursing shifts across public hospitals were understaffed.
Yeah, but missing 1 day striking, that's the problem, eh, Simeon?
Capital and Coast and Hutt Valley was the worst region, with just over half of all shifts short of nurses.
It has a huge impact on the whole team, and that impact is felt by patients and their family, and it does lead to patient harm.
For safe staffing levels across the country, the workforce needs 2,800 more nurses, with hospitals short an average of 587 nurses each shift alone.
Sorry, I should have said 600, you know. I kind of rounded it down to 500 where it's only 13. So I apologise. That was This is fake news. That was fake news. Let's just say 600, shall we? Because that's, you know, so much better.
Last year.
Those numbers were a lot higher back in 2022. There's been thousands of new nurses hired since we came, or additional nurses hired since we came to government, which is a positive step forward, but clearly there's more work to do.
Certainly our nurses are not feeling that there's been any increase in nursing staff, but there has been a growing demand in patient acuity.
Today's tense meeting
This is an energy that I've not felt before.
Wow.
comes after nearly 30 days of negotiations, set to continue tomorrow.
Yeah.
Sophie Tripp.
So you saw the back of the T-shirt, will strike for patient safety. So yeah, okay, let's be honest, patients will be put out for a day, agreed. But actually we're fighting that they'll be safer. And I'll remind us all of something that Gary Payunda told us. Oh, might have been Gary, or was it Craig Rennie? One of the two. They're both geniuses. That because Simeon Brown was talking of nurses and say, oh, well, they've had a 14% pay increase over the last few years. And this is what governments can do. He's right. They have had a 14% increase, but what that's done is that's brought them up to a level of where they have pay parity. Now, what is it? They need another 11% to get to pay parity from the mid 80s. So they're so far behind. So they were basically 35% behind. No, 25%. So they've had a 14% increase to get to pay parity for 1985, and they need another 11%. But Simeon doesn't say the second part of that sentence. He says the first part, they've had 14%. Cool. So in other words, you're looking for a full tank of gas and it's empty. You've just put about half of the tank in and you've gone off on your truck. Well, we actually want a full tank to get all the way. And you're choosing not to. You say, yeah, we put $100 of fuel in the car. The car takes $200 to fill up, but we put 100 in, you know? So anyway, Bree, thoughts?
It just makes no sense. Like you said, it's like adding the tiniest bit of gas and forgetting that there's another whole 70% of the tank. It's just frustrating to watch them have to beg for basic decency. I think, he's just telling everyone the consequences of his inaction, and I totally back the nurses. Back them. Yeah.
There's this thing, and I've said this before. It was during one of the breakfast shows, and this is pre-election, and Luxon was on there, and Luxon was talking about how they're going to treat the nurses so much better, and they're going to be so good for the nurses, and they're just going to, and that government, that Labor government, how terrible. And the announcer just said, so you're going to, the announcer, the host said, oh, so you're going to pay them what they pay in Australia? Oh, we're going to treat them so much better. He wouldn't say it. And look, I think if you look at people like nurses and teachers and the places that are public servants that are, they're earning a salary, but hard to say what market rates would be for a teacher, but certainly in the nursing fraternity, you've got private healthcare, so you can see what market rates would be. At least reach market rates. Just because, people need to live, and I don't think anyone does that job for money. But if they're struggling to pay their bills, or if they're just getting by paying their bills, and they can get 30% more at the private hospital, they're still looking after people. They're still, they're still using their skills. I mean, you'd have to be a martyr to actually just stay and get paid worse and have worse conditions and go backwards financially. It doesn't just fix it. I think I did this once before, Bree, and I think we worked out that for $1 billion, if we gave the rebates for the landlords to public servants, every single one of them, teachers, all would get about a $5,000 or $6,000 increase immediately. It was something like that. It might have been bigger than that, but the problem with this government is they're always going to hear from us. But what about the $17 billion you gave back to landlords and as tax cuts? You know, we can't afford to give you any more of a raise. We can't afford, we could do this much. We don't have $1 more. What about that 17 billion you decided to shovel off to these two areas? Because you could have held that and then you could have given them some money.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah. But it's interesting also to hear them saying at the end of that story, there feels like there's a new kind of urgency coming in there as well, because that's the same as the Palestinian situation. Feels like it's the same as the doctors. I just read out that message I got last night about the teachers, that there is something happening where there is a second wind, for want of a better word, coming into these groups to fight even harder. And not that it's being done for political reasons, but that is not as what that's not what this government wants leading up to an election. All of the public servants going, we are going to fail. All of the public servants going, we might have to go to Australia as we're coming into a new election. That's not what they'll be wanting. So
that's your
crazy.
staff. Yeah.
I mean, if government is a shop, your public servants are probably your what's in the window, you know? So if what's in your window is not happy with being there, you know, election time.